So is Patricia Carbonell here with us. She's the director of the Barcelona office of the international communication agency REVOLVE. You all have this issue on your seat, it's there on the table. What it says here, it's quarterly insights into a changing world. This magazine is also delivering a lot of data. Everything is based on the sea communication of the Mediterranean area especially. And Patricia will share with us their communication tools and the narratives that they are always thinking to bring in a new audience in a kind of more entertaining way. Thank you. Thank you, Patricia.
Okay, so as Tatiana explained, basically we are a communications group. We are established in Barcelona and in Brussels. Actually, in Brussels is where the magazine was emerging 10 years ago. At that point in Brussels, there was a lot of momentum around the EU-funded projects that were putting a lot of attention into business, research centers, and the media and society to get more involved and get funding mechanisms to move the pieces towards sustainable development at that point, so the Horizon 2020 project. So that was a very important moment for us to realize that there was a lot to be done in reporting about these issues and bridging the gap between the science and the media. So I think that's our role, and that's been happening over the past decade, in which we try to identify the experts that were working on the specific fields. The magazine is focusing on 4 main topics, so water is one of them. In fact, the magazine that is here is the winter issue, so everything is about water. Then we have the ecosystems one, which is mainly focusing on ecosystem restoration, which is the spring one. Then we also focus on the energy transition, so how the world is changing towards the renewables, and mobility. Mobility as a way of also connecting the rural and urban areas and how people actually feel this transition. So we are doing like a deep dive into what's happening. So we have a team of journalists working with us, creatives, doing video, and many sorts of ways to visualize data. But we also know that this is not enough as we were discussing, data is part of it, and the magazine was a good tool and a good resource for getting people interested and getting a good in-depth content, but we are trying to go beyond that now more than ever with storytelling techniques, with putting the faces and the voices of the people who is suffering or it's on the other side of the game. So that's what we are trying to also bring into these projects. We mainly work on EU-funded projects, and this is allowing us to bring a fresh or more creative perspective into this. So I will show you some examples of it very briefly, and you can discover more about the projects. So the projects are kind of tapping into agroecological transition, so a lot from the ground, and water reuse or wastewater, and how this is perceived by different sectors of society, or how the things are changing. Well, I already explained about the REVOLVE magazine, which is part of our work, but today I want to focus more on an initiative that it's mainly focused on the Mediterranean region. REVOLVE is more like European or even global based, and AMWAS actually stands for Mediterranean Water and Journalism Community, and that was an idea that we had back in 2016 to bring journalists and the media together, because we were seeing that there was a lot of interest in environmental communication, but not enough not to put it on the media at the end, to get it published or to get more attention. So this community has been growing, and the main focus is on valuing water ecosystems, so promoting the value of water, which is quite niche, because it's like, bringing the journalists to do more on that, on reporting and connecting the dots. Not only on water, but how it's interconnected with many other topics, like nature-related solutions. So amwas actually it's a word in Arabic, means waves, and with this word we mean the waves of movement from people, from goods, and what the Mediterranean know in a more philanthropical way, anthropological meaning it's trying to portray. So that's why most of the content that you will find, and that's why some of the name it's in Arabic and English, and we are trying to provide as well that language approach, because we feel that if it's all English kind of focus, we will miss a lot, no? That engagement from the southern parts of the Mediterranean, or even from the northern parts. So that's something that we are trying to do more, but of course the language is always a challenge and an issue to bring it. So, oh, sorry. I don't know if I need to play anything here, or it will play on its own. This is just to give you a sense of a video that we recently did with the REVOLVE team and the community here in Poblenou, at the Nest, trying to get the cultural kind of vibe going around Amwash. No problem. Okay, so these are just some examples. As I said, the Tayarat means stories. And basically here, we are not doing this alone. So we work with research centers. And AMWAS is actually bringing a membership in place, which CREAF, it's the research center in Catalonia for forestry and actually connecting as well a lot with the water research. So we are seeing that more and more the research and academy centers are willing to do more on communications and trying new things. So we are trying to work with them in putting together different pieces of media, multimedia, and publishing it in our platform. So in fact, this is a study that appeared in Nature, and we kind of did a more synthesized article for AMWAS, and it talks about the climate change situation and its impact in the Mediterranean. It's affecting how rivers are capturing greenhouse emissions, and in fact, the more that climate change will affect the rivers, the more actually it will be the other way around. So the greenhouse emissions will be sent to the air. So it's very important that we start to realize about the importance of studying this to make more concrete arguments and to kind of lead the way to make solutions on that sense. There's also another project which we are working on that is about wastewater reuse, and that's also doing a lot of pilot projects in different Mediterranean places where water scarcity is a big problem, and Cyprus is one of them. So I traveled to Cyprus last year to actually understand what the perception of society there was, no? As Denise was saying, not the actual empathy with the people who is living there. Not only, of course, I visited the research centers that are leading the project at a new level, but also the public authorities that are making the decisions, and they are actually shaping where the money is going, or where the actual industries are shaping. So, but the most important part was to meet children and actually getting to know their perception about water and water scarcity and their place, and even old people that open their doors to their homes to explain us how it was to be a farmer in the 1950s, and actually how the whole landscape management and agriculture situation has changed since then. So understanding the timeline and the historical change from people really changed our perception about the project. It was totally a different perspective before I went to Cyprus that when I came back. So we produced a video with all the interviews, with all the data as well, but mainly focus on the voices of these people. ¿Sí? ¿Si podemos? Vale.
¿O has hecho una pregunta o ya lo tallarás? ¿Puedo decirlo, o sea, empezar solo con la palabra y después...?
Pero hazme la pregunta.
Empiezo.
El Mediterráneo para mí es hogar.
يا رامي.
البحر الأبيض بالنسبة لي هو الذكريات.
Riqueza es verano.
La chaleur.
Mare Nostrum.
Fusion.
Buena vida.
Es una región de contrastes.
La Méditerranée, pour moi, c'est les légumes qui sont pleins de couleurs, pleins de saveurs et qu'on cuisine à l'huile d'olive.
Gli aromi che si sprigionano dal sole, delle piante, del cibo, delle città, delle strade assolate.
La riquesa cultural, gastronòmica, ambiental, paisatgística.
Contrastes en la naturaleza, en la gente, en el arte, en la cultura, en todo.
Es vivir en la calle, con buen clima, socializar, relacionarte con los demás.
وهو كل وقت قضيته مع صحابي لحد ما الشمس غابت في المكان ده.
Son playas, es ambiente cálido, es gente tranquila, disfrutando.
Perché come ai tempi dell'antica Roma rappresenta il bel tempo di culture che collaborano tra di loro per arrivare a un bene comune.
La chaleur de la vie et la chaleur des gens et la chaleur de toutes les journées au soleil.
It's a melting pot of different cultures.
Es el lugar donde me siento en casa. Da igual en qué punto de la región esté, siempre hay un olor o un sabor, un sonido que me hace sentir muy en casa.
Well, basically here it's a reminder of our common culture, no, in the Mediterranean, which is a very important part of our work in Ambush. But obviously this is not the only side of the coin, no. This is the first thing that comes up, no, our hearts and soul and the positive things about the Mediterranean. But we are also very concerned, and that's why we are working on these matters about the increasing pressures, no, that the Mediterranean, both on a social, economic and environmental perspective, is suffering. So it's the two sides of the coin that with this we try to bring in, like the voices and how people feel about it. So we want to really reinforce the dialogue and the synergies that are happening in the Mediterranean, north and south. So that's very important for us, and it's part of our projects. Then I wanted to mention this project because it's a short film that we did 2 years ago, and it's the Invisible Water short film. Basically, invisible water is kind of related to what Danny was saying about the water we consume, and it's embedded in our food, in our clothes, and everything we do, and we don't talk enough or we realize enough about it. So it was very consumer-oriented in the sense that it was tackling this virtual water, invisible water concept, which we had a lot of reports coming from research, but we didn't want to just portray it as such in the media. So we did this short film, which is 5 minutes. We won't play it now, but I will share the link with you. But it doesn't have any voiceover, anything kind of spoken. It's basically, we wanted to experiment more with the very basic 2D animation, let's say, a sort of stop motion, but only with the rhythm of the samples that we recorded, all made of water. Take the person on a journey, let's say, no? So actually the character, it's going through different scenarios in which the water industry, no, is being producing materials or products, and the actual characters are consuming them. So it's an interesting project because we were doing it just for internal purposes to see how we could transform such a long piece of invisible water report into something more creative. And we submitted into some festivals, and it was released across Europe and the Mediterranean. So the kind of outreach went super high, and also it was awarded with some prizes during that year. So that was a very good way of seeing that maybe 1,000 words, no, it's not worth one image, or as they say. So no need of having any message delivered, but actually the emotions and the interpretation of people of what they see and what the music is trying to address. No? So the emotions are very part of our work on storytelling. I think another part of our work in Ambush is the tabadul, which is exchange. Exchanges, because we feel that communication is not only one way, and that's what we do most of the time when we are doing these videos or articles or data, no? There's the one-way communication, but now more than ever we see that workshops and capacity building trainings are very impactful, no? Especially when we work with journalists more and more, and not only with journalists, but farmers or other stakeholders, no? So we're trying to bring that sort of service design into into our communication actions, no? Because at the end of the day, it's using different methodologies to get them engaged and have an experience that they can take with them, no? It's that kind of communication technique that we are seeing very, very impactful. That's one thing, and the other is to work on actual local campaigns. Once we do communication for the sake of doing it, on our research, it's one thing, but once we partner with projects that are happening on the ground and we help them to fundraise, to do the communication campaign, to involve the people on the ground, that really changes the scope as well. No? So we participated in a restoration campaign for a river basin in Beirut, and that managed to get some income for the restoration project, but we also took part of the design of the actual river basin restoration and the campaign. So that's something that we also feel that is very important when communicating, walking the talk. And the latest from the AMWAS part, it's DICRA, and DICRA means memories. DICRA means bringing back those memories that are being lost with, the accelerated changes that we are living in, not the actual mouth-to-mouth stories, the campfire vibe. And this is something that, again, we are trying to experiment more with the storytelling, with the more intimate settings, to the one-to-one conversations, all around water. Respect, let's say, and putting the value of water at the center of the stage. So we released the first episode last month, actually, and basically we invited an artist called Bint Mabare from Palestine, and she took us on a journey of visiting Palestinian communities and actually making a ritual about the water reverence, communal singing of women mainly for water reverence, or actually rituals that actually brought people together to call for rain, rain simmering as she calls it. So it was really nice. Marta was the anchor of this, was our first experience with a podcast. We saw that it also reached a good attention, and it allowed us to work as well with local partners here in Barcelona, Dub Lab in Poblenou for the radio. So more and more we are seeing that there's many like-minded people willing to do more and connect the dots between the little things that we are all providing. And I think this is a really nice experiment that we will be bringing forward. So I heard your presentations, and I feel that all of them could be part of these episodes, to have these conversations, to talk more about what emotions or what learnings brought you into this topic or into these artistic practices, the research behind. So we are on the other side, like receiving all this nurturing from you, help us to deliver better messages and get them into the media and get them into the projects that are tackling these topics. And I think that's it that I wanted to communicate. I felt that water and the Mediterranean have this common part. So if you have any questions or anything you are interested in, I will be around. And the magazines are online as well for you to explore the content and hear. Thank you.